tell me a little bit about the device. And first of all, what is it and why did you invent it? Go ahead and show everybody, if you would.
So this is the Orchid device. It's a self-contained syringe for fat grafting. I kept thinking, gosh, there has to be an easier way to do this that would produce a more predictable graft of higher quality, and that's what led to the development of the device.
And how does it work? And what does it do? Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business, and today is no exception. With us today is David Kern, the inventor of Orchid, and you're going to hear all about Orchid and what he invented. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Grant. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. Where'd you come in from?
Flew in from Lexington, Kentucky, my home.
I love it. And you come in today?
Yes, sir.
Well, we sure appreciate you coming and sharing your device and the history. But before we do, can you tell us where you're from?
Well, I'm a lifelong Kentuckian. I was born in Louisville, grew up in a small town in East Kentucky called Pikeville. Then went to Lexington for college and basically stayed there, never left Lexington after that. Stayed there for college, medical school, general surgery, plastic surgery, and then ultimately private practice.
Wow, you stayed there the whole time.
The entire
time. How
time.
many times have you been to the Kentucky Derby?
Only once.
Oh my word.
Yeah, but it's a must-do for all Kentuckians.
Yes.
It's a big crowd though, so I've tried to stay away from it since then. Once was enough.
Okay, when did you graduate from med school?
Medical school was 1992.
And when did you start your practice?
1998.
And so you did plastic surgery, and then you opened in 98. And did you open a solo practice?
No, I joined a practitioner already in Lexington, a great guy named Bill Dowden.
Okay.
And he was about 20 years my senior, and it was a wonderful relationship. We were in business together for about 12 or 13 years, and worked great for both of us.
That's great. That's wonderful when you hear that. And now, what's your practice look like now?
So I'm a solo practitioner for the last 12 or 13 years, and it's all aesthetic. I do about 60 to 70% facial surgery, and then some breast surgery and body contouring is the other part of it. And we have a skincare facility and a couple of nurse injectors, so it's a nice little practice. Have one of the UK residents coming to join me this fall.
Join you as in work with you, work
Correct.
alongside of you?
Yes.
Do you have a fellowship?
I do not have a fellowship. That might be something we'd look at expanding to, because we do have quite a bit of volume of aesthetic surgery.
And you mentioned you have 2 injectors. Do you do injections at all?
I do.
So 3 injectors total for the practice?
Yes, but I don't do that many.
Okay.
The surgical volume for me is the big driver, and I pretty much stay focused on that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's wonderful. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the device. And first of all, what is it and why did you invent it? Go ahead and show everybody, if you would.
So this is the Orchid device. It's a self-contained syringe for fat grafting. And now that you know something about the practice, so when I first started, I got really very interested in facial fat grafting.
Okay.
And I was combining it with all the facelifts, and then also was using it separately just for facial rejuvenation. And I've used the Coleman technique. I've really been through every technique that there is, quite frankly.
Okay, good.
And all of them suffered from the convenience. They all took a lot of time. They were a bit of a science experiment that you were doing on the back table to get the fat ready to put back in. And I kept thinking, gosh, there has to be an easier way to do this that would produce a more predictable graft of higher quality, and that's what led to the development of the device.
And how does it work? And what does it do?
So it allows you to harvest the fat. So the user would attach a cannula to the lure lock tip, and the plunger will self-retain, and you pull back on the plunger, and then while you're moving the cannula back and forth in the patient, the fat cells come into the aspiration chamber, which is really just like a normal syringe.
Okay.
We fill that up to 25 milliliters. Once that's completed, we add about 5 milliliters of wash, which is typically lactated ringers.
Okay.
Once that has been completed, we pull it into an absorption chamber. The absorption chamber wicks out all of the oil and the aqueous fluids from the fat graft. You do need to agitate that. You return it, you do 2 1-minute cycles. And at the end of that, it's all completed. You have a processed graft, which is very high in fat content and very low in oil and aqueous content.
Okay.
So that's exactly what we want for putting back into the face or whatever or wherever we're putting it, really.
Do you inject it from there, or do you transfer it to a small syringe?
You can inject it from here, but as you can see, it's a little large for reinjection, so we offer a lure-to-lure connector to sterilely transfer it to a smaller syringe, which is, I think, what most people will do, myself included. We're pre-market at this point. We anticipate launch in the fourth quarter of 2024.
Okay. And will you be distributing them like DTC, or is somebody else distributing them? How would a physician buy that from you?
We partnered with a one-stop shop for medical device development called Vitatech out of Minneapolis. So myself and the other inventor, Will Whitman, linked up with Vitatech, and they offer basically the full package from prototype development all the way through sales.
Okay.
So Vitatech will produce it and sell it. They do have a small sales force, and we're already linked with a fair number of plastic surgeons who will become our initial users.
Does that organization, what was it called again?
Vitatech.
Vitatech. Do they have enough salespeople to service, say, the whole plastic surgery community, or would you be interested in other ways to distribute it? Or is it exclusive?
No, it's not an exclusive, and I think both us and Vitatech assume that it will get acquired by or licensed to a larger organization.
Okay.
So our anticipation would be that we will start sales, make sure that the product performs as correctly and physicians like it, and then start to very actively seek licensing agreements.
Okay. Would you ever consider selling the whole thing rather than licensing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Have you heard of MedShift?
I have
That's
not.
Sean's company, right? Yeah, Sean Shapiro, MedShift. Be sure to get that information from me.
Will do.
They could help you with distribution of this. May I see it?
Yeah, of course.
So the idea is it's efficient harvesting, and then does this, when you're getting rid of the aqueous and the fat, does it use chemicals or is it mechanical?
It's all mechanical. It's just purely an absorptive process. So capillary action essentially that sucks the fluids out. There's no chemical to it, and the absorbent is an FDA-approved material.
Okay, and so this is ready to rock and roll now. You could use this today.
You could, yes.
In all 50 states?
In all 50 states. Well, we're pre-FDA, so we have to get through the FDA process before you can.
And what's that
it.
look like?
So it'll be a 510K process.
Okay.
We're anticipating, we already have identified a predicate device, and that's really the next step for us to get to market. As you can see, we have production quality parts already, and we're capable of sterilizing.
Okay. How big's your inventory?
0 at the moment.
Darn, you mean I can't take it home? Just kidding. So, is that a prototype or is that the real device?
This would be a design validation.
I see.
So this is coming off the actual production molds, but not a finished, final, ready-to-sell product.
And from skin to skin, let's say you're going to do my tear troughs, which I wish you brought the cannula and you could do my tear, and you're going to suck it out of my tummy. So let's say I'd have local anesthesia here. You're going to suck it and then treat it twice, and now you're going to inject my tear troughs. Skin to skin, how long does it take?
Skin to skin, I would anticipate about 20 minutes.
Get out of here.
So very much faster than what we're doing now. And I'm allowing for that. It takes us, after the anesthetic is set up, takes about 5 to 7 minutes to suction out your 25 milliliters, 2 minutes to process it, transfer it to syringes, and you're done.
That is fantastic. That's unbelievable.
And that's the real beauty of it.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
no time for centrifuging or multiple wash cycles or letting it decant on Telfa, et cetera.
That is genius. Now, what are you going to charge someone like myself to buy one of those? To the plastic surgeon.
Right. Our anticipated sale price is $350.
That's reasonable. That's
Yeah.
very reasonable.
Yeah.
One-time use, right?
One-time use, but you can run a second cycle in it.
Oh, so
you could take
cc's.
50. You could process 50 cc's if you wanted.
What if you wanted to do a breast? Could you do more than 2 cycles?
You can. We've tested it up to 4 cycles, but the oil and water content does start to come up in those 3rd and 4th cycles. Still, however, better than what you get from centrifuging.
Okay. So you could actually venture onto the breast, certainly for lumpectomies and so forth, or
Absolutely.
contour irregularities.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We think that's a very viable market for us.
Interesting.
And our goal is, once we get the 25 milliliter launched, then we'll move on to a 50 milliliter.
That was my follow-up question.
Yes. So the 50 milliliter basically is already designed. We just haven't built the molds yet.
That's a no-brainer.
It is.
Yeah, and if you could put some more whatever's in that fancy schmancy, that mechanical device, if we could reuse it, imagine if we could get a few hundred cc's and put it in the hip dip or certain areas of the lower extremity.
Right. It's
You know,
true.
With that kind of efficiency that you just described, 20 minutes to do for skin to skin to harvest, prepare, and inject, that's unbelievable. That could be an office procedure.
And that's our goal, is to make it an office procedure.
I see that.
Every day I see patients who really want fat grafting. Now, admittedly, over my 25 years of practice, you build up reputations for doing things.
Uh-huh.
And so, you reap what you sow. And once you get known for doing something, you attract more and more and more of it. And I'm sure you experience that in your own practice. And because of that, I'm overwhelmed with requests for fat grafting, and I just had to have a way to make the process a lot more efficient. Patients want fat grafting because they like it instead of fillers or as an adjunct to fillers because it lasts a lot longer. It always looks natural. It's very soft and compressible. You don't have to worry about allergic reactions to it. And so many patients are seeking this kind of treatment.
Yes.
Physicians, of course, have been reluctant to offer it because it's time consuming. It's a bit unpredictable because the processing is very detailed and not real organized in the current methods before Orchid. So a lot of docs say, oh, no, it's too messy and time-consuming, I don't want to fool with it. But if we give them a convenient way to do that, our belief is that this will really change the fat grafting world.
I completely agree with you. Where does the name Orchid come from?
Orchids are natural beauty, and fat is natural beauty.
Okay.
And that was really where it came from. Plus, it had a much better flow than calling it the pansy or the chrysanthemum.
Okay. I have some orchids at my home that are pretty much that color, that purple color, a little bit darker.
Yeah.
Well, that is absolutely fantastic. What else can you tell us about that I haven't pulled out of you yet? We have the cost.
Right.
We have the efficiency. We've talked about how it works.
Right.
What else?
So the upshot for the patients is fat grafting presents a huge value for them. Because they come in once, they may pay a little more for it than they would pay for, 1 or 2 or even 3 syringes of filler. However, it's going to last them a lot longer. So patients perceive value in it. Physicians, because now we've taken the time and hassle factor down for fat grafting, they also will perceive value in it. Because for physicians, time is money, and you've got to be able to, spend the correct amount of time to justify the price, and we hope this will get them in the range of making fat grafting a convenient, easy office procedure.
Yes, certainly I see no reason why not. I wonder if one of the companies that makes fillers would want to buy this from you.
Well,
I hope they wouldn't buy it in Deep Six. But
we have had significant interest from a very well-known person in that market, yes. A very well-known entity in that market, at least.
I bet you have. Well, that's wonderful. David, I want to thank you for sharing this with us and for coming out here and for inventing this.
My pleasure. I look forward to letting you try it.
You said you had a co-inventor, a partner.
I
Could
do.
you tell me about him?
Yes, absolutely. So my co-inventor is a gentleman named Will Whitman, who's a Harvard-trained mechanical engineer. And we were working on some other projects together, and I'd really always wanted to build something for fat grafting. But I've done a lot of inventing outside of the plastic surgery world.
Okay.
Mostly in the enteral feeding space, and Will and I were working on a different project for that, and then this just became a spin-off project that we tabled for a little while, and then we entered it in the ASPS Shark Tank a couple of years ago and won it. And that's let us know, oh, wait a minute, people see value in this. It also attracted interest from some larger entities, as I mentioned, at that time. And then we really were off to the races with it because, okay, we have to develop this. We have to get this to the market because there's big demand for it. And there's really nothing else like this.
Okay. When you mentioned Shark Tank, which we have at AIS, the Aesthetic Innovation Summit, we're actually going to have 2 Shark Tanks this next year. AIS will be March 19th in Austin, just before the Aesthetic Society meeting, and we're going to have 2 Shark Tanks, morning and afternoon. Are you raising any money now?
We are still raising capital. We have just a little bit to go before we hit market.
And what's the total raise that you're doing right now?
So it's actually a very small raise. Our total project outlay was $1.5 million, which is very small for a medical device development.
Absolutely. That's your raise, or that's what you started?
That's what we started.
So what's your pre-money valuation on this raise?
So we think pre-FDA we're looking at a $10 million valuation, post-FDA $20 million.
And so what are you raising?
So we still need about $500,000.
Okay.
To complete.
And the size of the whole raise
was $1.5 million.
1.5. Okay, interesting. Well, I wish you nothing but the best. I know you're going to get approved. I mean, if you don't, I won't believe it. Assuming it does what you say it does.
Yes,
and
yes.
I believe you.
We've done quite a lot of testing.
You're an honest and ethical human and plastic surgeon. And again, how exciting is this?
Well, it's really a pleasure to have interest in it, be on board with it, and also a pleasure to be at the AIS Shark Tank in the 2024 cycle.
Yes.
And win that. That was
you
really
guys won.
Quite an honor, and it lets us know that, hey, we're working on the right path.
That's wonderful. Well, who knows? Maybe you probably won't have to do a raise after this, but who knows? You may be back on the AIS on emerging technologies, or hey, when you come out with the breast one or the buttocks one, or you just stay in touch with me because we're still putting together next year's program. I'd love to have you back on stage.
Well, we see this as a launch product in this space, and then just keep on developing.
Good for you. I love it. Well, once again, thank you very much for coming out from Kentucky. I want to get to the Kentucky Derby here either this next year or the year after.
Will you let me know?
I shall.
You'll be my guest.
I'd love to be your guest. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on this exciting episode of The Technology of Beauty, where I have a chance to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And you can see today was no exception. The inventor and the founder of Orchid, a fast, efficient, easy way to harvest, transfer, and inject fat. The interview that you just heard was from a little while ago, but thankfully I have David Kern, Dr. David Kern, here with us in the studio, and he's going to update us on Orchid. Thank you, David, for stopping in.
Grant, a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks for the opportunity to update. As you know, the road on device development is long and full of twists and turns, and we've been working aggressively over the last few months to get to a production level device, and also have been able to conduct a lot of testing on our fat cells that we harvest with the Orchid device.
On patients?
Not on patients.
On cadavers?
On harvested skin from abdominoplasties.
Okay.
And what we've learned in that is with the Orchid device, we're getting significantly higher concentrations of viable fat cells as compared to the Coleman technique where you centrifuge the fat, which is really the current industry standard in this. We also see high consistency in the cells and a good mix of the oil, fluid, and aqueous content of the graft. So we're really pleased to see those results coming back in.
That's exciting.
And plan to continue expanding on that.
Where are you with the FDA and the FDA approval process?
Right now, we're just getting ready to file for a 510K.
Okay.
That is about a 90-day process, assuming it flows smoothly. So we're targeting to be on the market later in 2025, I'm sorry.
So you're targeting to be commercial in late 2025?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to be have your own sales staff, or how are you going to do this?
We're working with a device development firm called Vitatech,
Okay.
who has basically everything in-house. They have the manufacturing capability and are doing our manufacturing.
Okay.
They have the regulatory component as well as a sales force. So we'll be
Fantastic.
launching with them.
Fantastic. And where are they located?
They're in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it. Did you happen to bring one?
In fact, I did. So
Oh,
this
my.
is an updated Orchid device.
Would you look at that?
The manufacturer.
And it's the Aesthetic Society colors. Thank you very much. Wow. This is amazing. Can I pull
Of
back
course.
on it a little bit?
Yes.
This is truly amazing technology.
A one self-contained,
Yeah.
all closed harvest,
And then
process,
process and
re-inject
then
if you wish.
re-inject. Incredible. And can this be used for more than this volume? And could I do it a couple of times? or-
Yes, and that's the other thing that's come through in our cell viability testing is each round you can process 25 cc's, and we have essentially no significant loss on a second cycle. So 50 cc's in each syringe, no problem.
That's wonderful. I can't wait to use it.
We're looking forward to getting in the hands of all the good surgeons.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity
You
again,
betcha.
Grant. Always a pleasure.
Same, David. Take care.